Welcome to the Nation ASEAN Plus. I'm Liz Ong at Wisma Bernama in Kuala Lumpur, the home of Malaysia's national news agency. We look at the stories that made the week with some insightful perspectives from across this dynamic and diverse region. We've seen some significant developments within the ASEAN bloc this week. Let's start here with Malaysia. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said Malaysia's successful hosting of the 47th ASEAN Summit last month, particularly in terms of security and management, has earned praise from world leaders, including United States President Donald Trump. Datuk Seri Anwar said Trump personally expressed his admiration for Malaysia's efficiency and professionalism during his official visit to Kuala Lumpur in conjunction with the summit, and even requested to meet Inspector General Police Muhammad Khalid Ismail to personally convey his appreciation. The Prime Minister said Malaysia's ability to manage high-profile international events had also drawn strong global attention. Still with the Prime Minister, he said Malaysia will continue to strengthen intra-ASEAN trade by promoting QR payment usage and cash transfer systems, as well as expand regional payment connectivity. He also highlighted that a current main weakness of ASEAN is the low trade and investment among member countries. This will be a key priority for Malaysia during its chairmanship. Datuk Seri Anwar said intra-ASEAN trade currently accounts for about 22% and needs to increase this to strengthen regional economic integration. According to Datuk Seri Anwar, this initiative has shown significant progress, especially in Malaysia, Thailand and Indonesia, with efforts underway to expand it to other countries. Moving on, ASEAN Secretary-General Dr. 𝐀𝐒𝐄𝐀𝐍 praised Malaysia's vital role under Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim in brokering peace between Cambodia and Thailand, which led to the signing of the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accord. He described the accord, supported by the US and China, as a remarkable achievement that prevented further conflict. Dr. 𝐀𝐻 also lauded Malaysia for achieving a milestone in regional diplomacy with the full admission of Timor-Leste as the 11th member of ASEAN, marking a history moment for the regional bloc. He said Timor-Leste's formal accession on October 26 represented the final round of ASEAN's enlargement, as envisioned in the ASEAN Charter, bringing the region's community-building journey to a new level. Meanwhile, the ASEAN Secretary-General also urged ASEAN's higher education leaders and institutions to take the lead in driving transformation towards achieving the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. He said while ASEAN had laid down strategic blueprints across its community pillars, higher education must move beyond alignment and assume a leadership role in shaping the region's future. 𝐻𝐻 said that the forthcoming ASEAN Education Work Plan 2026-2030 would articulate the foundation for regional cooperation in education with a focus on mobility, digital transformation and TVET. In other news, the state visit of His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, King of Malaysia, to Saudi Arabia marks a new chapter of enduring friendship, mutual respect and shared commitment between both nations. This historic visit underscores the deep spiritual ties and growing cooperation between Malaysia and Saudi Arabia, which remain united by faith and a shared vision for peace, prosperity and regional development. The visit also reflects the continued commitment of both countries to strengthen bilateral relations and expand cooperation in various sectors, including economy, defense and Islamic affairs. This was Sultan Ibrahim's fifth state visit since ascending the throne, following his visits to Singapore, China, Brunei and Russia. A Malaysian delegation led by Malaysian Deputy Prime Minister Dato Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi visited Shanghai Jiao Tong University on Wednesday with an aim to deepen educational cooperation between the Southeast Asian country and China. Now, during the visit, the Deputy Prime Minister met with faculty members and Malaysian international students at SJTU. He also witnessed the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between Majlis Amanah Rakyat, a Malaysian government agency, and SJTU. The delegation is in Shanghai for the 8th China International Import Expo, which run from November 5th to 10th. Now, Malaysian rapper 𝐍𝐀𝐓𝐈𝐎𝐍, or popularly known as 𝐀𝐒𝐄𝐀𝐍, has been remanded by police for 6 days, starting Wednesday in connection with the death of a Taiwanese influencer. Taiwan national Irish Xiao Yu-shin was found dead in a Kuala Lumpur hotel bathtub on October 22nd. Malaysian authorities had initially ruled her death as sudden death, but later reclassified the case as murder. She was reportedly working on a video project with 𝐍 before her death. 𝐍 voluntarily handed himself over to authorities at the Dang Wangi police station in the Malaysian capital on Wednesday and will be remanded until next Monday. Malaysia has expressed its deepest condolences to the people of the Philippines following the tragic loss of lives and destruction caused by Typhoon KALMAEGI. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said he was deeply saddened by the extensive devastation caused by the typhoon, which resulted in severe flooding, landslides, and the destruction of homes and infrastructure. Dato Sri Anwar said Malaysia's thoughts and prayers are with the people of the Philippines as they begin to rebuild their communities. The Malaysian passport is now ranked third globally in the 2025 Passport Index, a global benchmark for passport standings. The Immigration Department said the achievements reflects international trust and recognition of the security features of Malaysia's travel document, which is highly regarded worldwide. According to data from www.passportindex.org, the United Arab Emirates passport tops the passport power rank, followed by Singapore and Spain in second place. Malaysia shares the third position with 15 other countries, including namely France, Germany, Switzerland, and South Korea. Back in a moment with more of the week's stories from across ASEAN. You're watching ASEAN Plus on Bernama TV. Thanks for staying with me, Melissa Ong. Singapore's government recently announced it plans to gazette the site of the home of the city-state's first Prime Minister as a national monument, following a bitter dispute between Lee Kuan Yew's children over what to do with the building. The National Heritage Board and the Singapore Land Authority said an advisory board had found the 1898 single-storey bungalow in central Singapore worthy of preservation as it witnessed key events in the 1950s during the country's transition from a colony to an independent nation. Lee, who died in 2015, had publicly said he wanted the house to be demolished. He included that request in his will and added if that could not happen, then he wanted it closed to anyone except family and descendants. Now, the question of what to do with the house became a major issue in a public spat between Lee's 3 children after his death. Now, Singapore will impose caning as part of mandatory punishment for scammers under a new criminal law ratified on Tuesday after the nation lost nearly 4 billion Singapore dollar to scams over the past 6 years. In 2024 alone, victims lost a record 1.1 billion Singapore dollars. Those convicted of running or aiding scam syndicates will face at least 6 strokes of the cane, in addition to fines and prison sentences. The maximum punishment is 24 strokes, depending on the severity of the offence. Under the new law, syndicate members, recruiters and accomplices, including money mules who provide bank accounts, SIM cards or digital identities, will also be held accountable. In Indonesia, its Foreign Minister Sugiono has underlined the need for every step towards peace in Gaza to carry strong international mandate and legitimacy. Speaking at a ministerial meeting on Palestine in Istanbul on Monday, he reaffirmed Indonesia's support for concrete peace initiatives following the agreements reached at the Sharm el-Sheikh summit on October 13. Sugiono stressed that while practical steps towards peace are vital, they must be implemented under an official UN mandate or another legitimate mechanism. The Istanbul meeting, chaired by Turkish Foreign Minister, brought together foreign ministers from Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and Jordan, with state ministers from Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Moving on, Indonesia's Social Affairs Minister Saifullah Yusuf has proposed to President Prabowo Subianto that the Free Nutritious Meal MBG program will be extended to the elderly and people with disabilities, with implementation expected in 2026. The proposal was discussed during a cabinet meeting at the Presidential Palace on Tuesday. If approved, beneficiaries will continue receiving existing government aid. Launched on January 6, 2025, the MBG program targets 82.9 million people nationwide and currently benefits school children, pregnant women, breastfeeding mothers and toddlers to support nutrition and early childhood development. Around 100 activists gathered in Jakarta on Thursday, urging the government to cancel plans to grant late President Suharto the title of National Hero. Protesters, including Amnesty International Indonesia, former 1998 student activists, and families of rights abuse victims, gathered near the Presidential Palace to voice their opposition. The demonstrators argued that Suharto's alleged involvement in human rights violations and corruption made him unworthy of the National Hero title, which is set to be announced next Monday. Suharto, ousted in 1998, amid protests and riots that killed 1,200 people, is among 49 candidates proposed for the title, with the final decision resting with President Prabowo Subianto. Still with Indonesia, 2 British nationals, Lindsay Sandiford on death row for drug offences and Shahab Abadi serving life, were presented to media in Indonesia on Thursday before being repatriated. Jakarta and London reached a deal on October 21st to return them on humanitarian grounds. Sandiford, 69, was convicted in 2013 for smuggling cocaine worth over $2 million into Bali, while Shah Abadi, 35, was jailed for narcotics. Officials say both suffer from health issues. Indonesia has recently released several foreign death row inmates. Meanwhile, in Thailand, Bella Kali, a pregnant 19-year-old British teenager jailed in Georgia for smuggling marijuana and hashish from Thailand, was freed on Monday under a plea agreement that sentenced her to the nearly 6 months she had already spent in jail. Kali was sentenced to the 5 months and 24 days she had already served in jail in the South Caucasus country, where she had been arrested at the airport on arrival in May after going missing in Thailand. Georgian prosecutors say she was carrying 12 kilograms of marijuana and 2 kg of hashish in her luggage. She and her defense team had said she was tortured in Thailand and forced to transport the drugs. On Thursday, India repatriated the first batch of hundreds of its nationals who had fled to Thailand from Myanmar last month, where most have been working at a notorious centre for online scams. The remainder will leave Thailand next Monday. The centre, known as KK Park on the outskirts of the border city of Myawadis and said to house a major cybercrime operation, was raided by Myanmar's army in mid-October to suppress cross-border online scams and illegal gambling. In April, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime estimated that hundreds of industrial-scale scam centres generate just under $40 billion in annual profits. Southeast Asia is the world epicenter for online scams, and hundreds of thousands of people are believed to have been lured to work in Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos, where many were forced to perpetrate global scams involving false romances, fraudulent investment and illegal gambling. Well, I'm off to another break. We'll be back with more updates in ASEAN. Welcome back with me, Melissa Ong. The nation ASEAN Plus continues with the Philippines. The death toll from Typhoon KALMAEGI that has hit the country since last Sunday has climbed to 188, with 135 more missing. Typhoon KALMAEGI made landfall in the Philippines on Tuesday, triggering massive flooding that submerged houses up to the roofs, swept away countless cars and displaced thousands of villagers. Power supply was disrupted in 162 municipalities, while communications were affected in 22 municipalities. Agricultural losses exceeded 10 million pesos. KALMAEGI was the 20th typhoon to slam the Philippine archipelago this year. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on Thursday declared a state of emergency over the devastation caused by Typhoon KALMAEGI. The decision was made during a briefing at the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Marcos said the declaration will accelerate rescue, relief and rehabilitation efforts, allowing faster access to emergency funds and streamline procurement processes. KALMAEGI exceeded the country Thursday morning, but it continues to bring rain to parts of Luzon and the Mindanao region. Though tens of billions of pesos spent on flood control projects in recent years in the Philippines, questions have been raised about the value of that investment, as flooding from Typhoon KALMAEGI affected more than 2.14 million people nationwide. Many residents in flood-affected areas have been left wondering whether money earmarked by the government for flood control projects has been spent wisely. Between 2022 and 2025, more than 400 flood protection projects worth about $441 million have been launched in Cebu, the second highest investment of all the nation's provinces. After battering the Philippines, deadly Typhoon KALMAEGI has moved toward Vietnam. As authorities brace themselves, Vietnam's Aviation Authority issued a storm alert, with several airlines cancelling or rescheduling flights to and fro central and highland cities as the typhoon moved closer to landfall. Authorities have banned vessels from going to sea and suspended construction projects asked factory owners to brace for the storm and renewable power developers to protect solar and wind farms as the storm strengthened. Authorities in Vietnam's central and highland provinces evacuated residents and raised disaster alerts on Wednesday as KALMAEGI approached the coast with powerful winds, heavy rain and high tides. Now, Typhoon KALMAEGI made a landfall Thursday north of GAZA province in central Vietnam, lashing the region with fierce winds and torrential rain after leaving more than 100 people dead and dozens missing in the Philippines. 3 fishermen were reported missing after their boat was swept away by strong waves on Lai Son, an island in Vietnam's Quang Ngai province. Vietnam, which gets about a dozen typhoons and storms a year, has been hit by a relentless series this year, leaving little time to recover between disasters. Scientists warn that a warming climate is intensifying storms and rainfall across Southeast Asia, making floods like this year's increasingly destructive and frequent. Now, moving on, Pope Leo XIV, during an audience on Peter's Square on Wednesday, urged the international community not to forget the Burmese people and to provide the necessary humanitarian assistance. The previous week, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres spoke at a press conference during the ASEAN summit, where he called for an immediate end to the violence occurring in Myanmar and urged for restoration and democracy, the rule of law and human rights. Myanmar has been roiled by violence since a 2021 coup that unseated an elected civilian government, with its ruling generals facing fierce resistance from armed groups. Myanmar marked the end of the rainy season with the annual Tha Suan Daing Festival, an 8-day celebration featuring fireworks and giant balloons made of bamboo and paper, which are launched into the night skies. In the capital, Naypyidaw, teams from different government ministries on Monday sent up 14 different balloons in a competition to show off their creativity. The Tha Suan Daing Festival of Light began under British colonial rule in the last century. It's since evolved into a much-loved national fixture. The festival is being held against a background of civil war ignited by the military's overthrow of the elected government in 2021. This has been your weekly roundup of ASEAN news. For more updates on ASEAN developments, visit the ASEAN page on bernama.com. I'm Liz Ong. This has been the Nation ASEAN Plus. Thanks for watching.